You see, A's? That wasn't so hard.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about your Oakland A's every single day, as long as they are rooted in Oakland. There they are, and not just the generic A's. That's right. We got all of our cups in a row here right now. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan, but please, by all means, call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, and my first season here as the host of Locked On A's. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Boy, I wish eBay Motors could just send the A's $1 for every one of their parts, and then they'd have a $122 million payroll. Is that asking too much? I think it might be. Hey, follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or on Instagram, or whatever the hell Twitter is called these days. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you're listening to us every single day and you're going to put a hashtag or go to one of those social media sites, post Everyday A's on there. We keep track who's listening to us. Hey, I'm telling you something. This show is a lot more fun to do when the A's are winning. My favorite baseball movie of all time is Bull Durham. I did a whole podcast, 103 episodes on the movie Bull Durham, where we broke it down 1 minute at a time, called Bull Durham Minute, with some great guests on it. But there's a great line in Bull Durham when the Durham Bulls are going on this massive winning streak, and Tim Robbins, who's brilliant as Nuke LaLoosh, says, "I love winning. You know, like it's better than losing." I was thinking about that today. This is kind of how you want to write it up. Remember how I was so frustrated about the loss the other day I think it was on Sunday. They didn't lose yesterday because they didn't play. But the loss on Sunday where you had the one freaking error, the one flippin' error sort of, which was actually two errors on one play that derailed that inning, with Schumann, muffed that ball that could have ended the inning. And I think they only let up one run at that point. And instead, the Astros put a 5 spot on, and that was all the scoring they got. I said, avoid the bad inning. Well, guess what they did today? They avoided the bad inning. And look what happened. Spence was terrific. He didn't let up a hit for the first 5 innings. He finally let up a hit, and they pulled the plug because it's like, hey, Spence, if we're not throwing a no-hitter right now, let's just keep the line moving here. And you can't argue with how they kept the line moving. Spence walked about a hit and let up a hit. McFarland got out of the 6th inning, pitched well into that. Kelly came in, pitched well, and then they handed the ball to Miller. And oddly, Miller gave the Rays their only little, ray of hope, no pun intended there, by walking the batter, and he let up a hit and a walk and brought the tying run to the plate. But out came another strikeout. His ERA is back down to 1.88. It's save number 11. There was only one inherited runner from any of the relievers, and McFarland stranded that. And they avoided the bad inning. And take a look, you got Tampa Bay, who is really kind of a disappointing team when you take a look at it. Remember, they won 99 games last year? Now, granted, there's still 2/3 of the season left, but we're right on the verge of June. So you can't say, it's April, it's May. No, we're in the second third of the season. And the Rays, who are a 99-win team, are now only 3.5 games ahead of the A's. The A's are within 2 good weeks and 2 bad Rays weeks from catching them. Toro got his 2 hits, which is great. Blade walked twice. That worked out well. And Miguel Andujar, who I'm going to be completely honest with you, I forgot was on the team. This is only his third game with the A's. And Andujar, which is how you pronounce it, Andujar. That's an emphasis on the do. It's kind of like Sean Doolittle, Andujar. I remember John Sterling always made a great pains to pronounce his name correctly. Andujar is someone who has ability. I mean, he hit 27 home runs for the Yankees in 2018. He hasn't had, he's one of these players who hasn't really come back from COVID. He hasn't really been an effective player really since then. But he was a he was a Yankee farmhand, and he's been waived here and waived there. But again, he's a guy who has a little bit of talent. In 2018, he was a runner-up, a Rookie of the Year. And if the A's can tap into that a little bit, it didn't cost them anything. And look what he did today. He had a 3-run homer. Which let's go to MLB.com and review all the scoring for the day. Andujar homers on a line drive to left. Max Schumann and J.J. Bleday scored, and that's it. No big innings for Tampa Bay. No sloppy play. No errors from the Oakland A's. There was no they didn't hand them anything. They didn't hit by, there were no hit by pitches. There were no wild pitches. It was good, solid. The Langoliers stole a base. They pulled off a double play. Granted, they grounded into a couple double plays, but they got the big home run when they needed it. And Spence came out, and all right, he didn't quite have it for a no-hitter, so the bullpen comes in. Now, the one thing I said, they need to fix two things. I said very clearly they need to fix two things if they want to get on a winning streak, and that is they have to avoid making that the big inning for the other team, and they can't just rely on the home run. Well, they scored all their runs with a home run, but at least it wasn't a solo shot. So it would be nice if they could manufacture a run, but at this point, hey, you take it. You take winning game one of the series. You take winning game one of a series from a team that still has images of a playoff appearance dancing around in their head, which they do. And with this, the A's win again. And that's not so bad. And that's when you get a chance, and we saw this when they went on that decent run, when they climbed all the way back to the Everest that is known as 500. You win game one of a series, you put the team on their heels. You win game one of a series on the road, you really put them on their heels. Split the next two games. Split the next two games in that dump hellhole that is called the Tropicana Field. Win tomorrow, and then obviously you would want to go for the sweep, but just split the next two. Then that means you've won two of the last three series. Then you're going to go to Atlanta. And I know, and Atlanta's going to be brutal. Atlanta's one of the best teams in baseball, even without Ronald Acuna Jr. But maybe you're going to catch the Braves on a downside. I don't know. Neither do you. But lots of good things can happen if all you do is win game one of a series. And guess what they did? They did exactly that. So there you go, A's. Pretty good. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about, well, let's just call it what it is. Strange bedfellows. Strange situations to root for when you have images of a more ambitious season than you originally thought. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performances. You got superchargers, easy for you to say, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, It's easy to make the car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive with ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available for U.S. customers. Hey, where is your hub for listening to all the best sports and takes you can get? Where is it? Where do you go? Let me make the suggestion that you make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed to bring you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. So we are indeed doing a live stream, as I wanted to jump right on as soon as I could after the A's win over Tampa Bay. Tomorrow, the A's are going to be playing Tampa Bay. It'll be what time is that? It's going to be 3:50 West Coast time, 6:50 East Coast time. Pepio is pitching for Tampa. Estes is pitching for the A's. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on there. Hey, we're doing live feeds. Did someone put something in the comments? Hey, Leave It to Baker says, hey, Sully, good to see you tonight. Good to see you, Leave It to Baker. Okay, please explain why every single player, including bench guys, are pointing every time they hit a home run. What's the point? No pun intended. What they're doing is they're pointing to the specific people in the stands. Because keep in mind, they're playing in Oakland, and today they're playing in Tampa Bay. They don't have very big crowds there. So when someone yells something, he can point to like, hey, you. Yeah, Carl. You didn't think I was going to do that. I don't know. Maybe they're pointing. Hey, look at that. Look at that. There's a woodchuck. There's a prairie dog. Hey, look at that. It's Stomper. I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. I don't know. Point. I honestly don't care how people celebrate their home runs. I don't care if they start doing cartwheels. I really don't care. Just keep hitting the home runs. Keep hitting the home runs, and all will be well in the world. You know, it's strange, though, because I want to see the A's. What are some of the things I said I wanted for this A's team? I want them to avoid 100 losses. And so far, they don't look like a 100-loss team. I don't want them to finish in last place. I want some other team in the American League to have to come to their fan base, hat in hand, and say, sorry, we couldn't beat the team with the lowest payroll in baseball, who was basically playing out the film The Producers and trying to lose and trying to leave town. Sorry, we couldn't be better than them. Which means every once in a while, you have to have a strange bedfellow, like the Mariners. If you're an A's fan, chances are you're not a huge Mariners fan, but it's hard to hate the Mariners, the one team that's never made it to the World Series. But tonight, as I'm recording this, the Mariners have the lead against the Astros. It wouldn't be fun to catch the Astros. Wouldn't that be something? File that under glorious, to have the Houston Astros go from we're the prohibitive favorite to win year in and year out, and then suddenly have them be looking up at Oakland in their final year there. Well, if they lose tonight, and they're losing right now, only a game and a half separate them. Yeah, it makes the loss the other day hurt more, but so what? Catch up with them. And then you have the team that's the real disgrace. Now, the off-the-field disgrace has to be the A's because of Fisher, who sucks, because of what has happened with the team, and basically that they've been putting two sticks of dynamite in this team this whole time. But then you have the Angels. The Angels. Wouldn't it be fantastic if you're an A's fan to say, all right, Angels, you couldn't even top the A's. And who are they playing tonight? The Angels are playing the Yankees. Full disclosure, I grew up in New England. Okay, I lived in New England until my family moved to the Bay Area when I was in my teens. So it's not within my DNA to say go Yankees. But as the Yankees are playing outstanding baseball and the Angels are not, and every single time the A's can get a win and separate themselves a little bit from the Angels, I'll tell you what that means. If the Yankees hold on to this lead, that means the A's have clinched not being in the basement when June starts. Again, not the sort of thing you hang a banner for, but a lot better than we thought they were going to do. A hell of a lot better than we thought they were going to do. So, hey, sometimes you have strange bedfellows. Sometimes there's strange bedfellows when you have sort of these low-key goals. Well, we're going to take a look. I mean, the A's, I think, should be just bringing up everyone they can to fill in. They need someone to help them produce and manufacture runs. And who knows? We're only, 4 games into the Miguel Andujar tenure in the Oakland. But Jacob Wilson is just sitting there in the minor leagues right now. Jacob Wilson is the A's #1 prospect and in the top 60 of prospects in all of baseball right now. And Jacob Wilson, is he going to come up to the majors soon? I'm not 100% sure, and neither are you. But the fact of the matter is, he is, Jacob Wilson's a young kid. Jacob Wilson is someone who he could really provide. I mean, he could really provide that pop that they need. And just who knows? Who knows? Like at this point, when you see him, and he is playing in Las Vegas, he's 22 years old. He's an infielder, and he has power. He has some speed and some versatility, and he seems to be a good all-around hitter. And I can't help but wonder, why not? Why not just put him in the lineup? Why not see what he can do? The A's need everything they can get to start to manufacture runs. Short of bunting runners over in the early innings, I think you got to be able to bunt. We need bunters in baseball when you have situations where one run can win the game. I said it will drive me bananas when I see extra innings, when you have the Manfred man on second and to lead off the inning, and one run could win the game. Bunt them over, chaos can ensue, and the best case scenario is you have a runner on third with one out where a fly ball could win the game. But if you have a hot hitting player right now sitting in Vegas, what's the worst that could happen? Bring him up, give him some time, and he might be able to flare a hit into left or to get a base hit the other way. I don't know, and neither do you. They need all the weapons they can get, and they're not going to get it from a trade, and they're not going to get it from anything short of a situation like Miguel Andujar when a player is placed on waivers. So if you have one of the top hitting prospects in baseball, remind me why you don't just bring him up. Take a shot. It may be a win or two here. And if nothing else, it gives us something to root for and say, hey, the future looks great, in Sacramento. Hey, let's hear a little bit from our friends over at FanDuel. Now, FanDuel, if you are not familiar, is America's #1 sportsbook, and it's winner take all. The NBA Finals may be locked. We know the Celtics are in. We're finding out the Mavericks tonight. And isn't it weird that the Rangers are a Dallas team? They won the World Series. The Mavericks are probably going to go to the NBA Finals. The Stars will probably go to the NHL Final. This is a good time if you're a Dallas fan. Lots of wins. But FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, here's a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports streaming channel. It's available on YouTube, and it's also available on the free Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. Free Fire TV channel app. Free Fire TV channel app. As this is the end of Oakland baseball, sometimes I want to pay tribute to some of the Oakland heroes who may have slipped through the cracks. We've all heard of Catfish. We've all heard of Reggie. We've all heard of Ricky and Smoke and Canseco and McGuire. But some of the other people who helped contribute to some of the glories in Oakland may have slipped through the cracks. But their contribution should be remembered, especially as we're saying goodbye to this team. I'm going to bring up Paul Lindblad. Paul Lindblad had a long career where he seemed to bounce back and forth between the A's organization and the Senators Rangers organization before wrapping up his career in the Bronx. And along the way, he picked up a few World Series rings for his trouble and played alongside about several Hall of Famers over 13 Major League seasons. And in 1973, he found himself in Oakland helping the defending World Series champs against an upstart New York Mets team. The A's won Game 1, but lost a sloppy Game 2 in extra innings, sending the series back to Shea. And that was the game where the errors by Mike Andrews sparked A's owner Charlie Finley to try and release Andrews and replace him with Manny Trio. It was a really, really ugly situation that ultimately led to Dick Williams resigning at the end of the series. Now, two future Hall of Famers, Catfish Hunter and Tom Seaver, started Game 3. A Seaver win would give all the momentum to Yogi Berra and the Mets. Yogi Berra managed the Mets that year. And an A's loss would keep the team in an emotional spiral, who almost forfeited Game 3 in support of Mike Andrews. And a leadoff home run by Wayne Garrett of the Mets and another run put the Mets up 2-0 in the first with Tom Seaver on the mound. That's a bad place to be. The A's tied the game in the 8th, but could not score in the 9th against the Mets bullpen. And Williams, Dick Williams, the manager of the A's, had already used Darrell Knowles, who was the lefty specialist for the A's. So he handed the ball to Paul Lindblad in the bottom of the 9th. And this was Paul Lindblad's first appearance in the postseason. They didn't use him in the ALCS or the first 2 World Series games, including the extra inning game. Every single pitch Paul Lindblad threw could have won the game for the Mets. He allowed a ground rule double to Rusty Staub in the 9th, but after an intentional walk, he worked out of the game. He worked out of the jam. In the 10th, he let up a single to Bud Harrelson, and he faced Willie Mays. Now, of course, Willie Mays in 1973 was no longer Willie Mays, the greatest player of all time, but he was still Willie Mays in the World Series, and one swing of his bat would have given him an exclamation point in his career. Instead, Lindblad got Mays to ground out, and Lindblad was the last pitcher that Willie Mays ever faced. Lindblad batted in the 11th, and the A's rallied to score a run. He took the run in the bottom of the 11th before letting up a single to Wayne Garrett, and then Raleigh Fingers came in, closed the game, and earned the save. But Paul Lindblad got the win, shutting out the Mets, where pitch after pitch, the game was on the line. And if the Mets had won that game and gone up 2-1 with the whole Mike Andrews controversy going on, the A's would have been absolutely derailed. The Mets may have won it at home, and the A's defense of the 72 World Series would have fallen short instead of extending to 3 straight in 1974. Now, Reggie Jackson, who would go on to be Lindblad's teammate when they won the Yankees won the World Series in 78, was the MVP of the series. But the series so many times hinged on 2 relief innings thrown by Paul Lindblad. Paul Lindblad died a few years ago, and most A's fans may not remember him, even if recounting what happened in the 73 series. But he's someone that A's fans should remember as they talk about those 3 straight World Series titles. It was so close to slipping away and having the emotion behind the Mike Andrews near suspension derail the team. And Paul Lindblad stayed focused. So I'm giving honor to an A's player you probably have never heard of before and probably never knew what he did before. And most people, when they think about that series, don't recount that. But his contribution was pretty big. So A's fans, salute the late Paul Lindblad. All right, we're going to talk about the A's and the Rays tomorrow. And we're going to talk about some other things coming up, including addressing some of the questions regarding Las Vegas. So follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now. You can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about the A's doing what they should be doing. That is playing mistake-free ball and winning baseball games. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.